Hi, welcome to the Art of Shame-Free Living podcast. Around this time of year, and maybe for the last few weeks, and maybe for the next few weeks, a lot of people talk about goals, what they want to do differently, all the things they did wrong in the last year, all the things they did not get done, all the ways that they want to change. And there's a few things that I notice when we get to this time of year. One is that it's focused on lack. Lack as in what is missing about me? What is wrong with me? What am I not doing enough of? Maybe I feel like I should be a less weight. Maybe I feel like I should be eating differently, or I should be moving my body more, or over drinking or overeating or whatever. All of those things that we look at that we want to change about ourselves. And I think that most businesses prey on our sense of lack. They know that we have more negative thoughts than we do positive. They know that underneath the surface, we already worry that maybe we're not doing enough, that maybe we aren't enough. They already know this about our mind and how it works. And then they focus on that. They're like, you know what will make you happier, thinner, fitter, healthier, like those things? Let's do more of that. I choose not to make my decisions based on lack anymore. I choose to notice when I'm feeling lack, to intentionally shift my energy and make a choice that's very different from a very different energy. So I would offer, if you want to set goals in a completely different way than you ever have before, to tune in. I think the ways that we typically see goals are with a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work, a lot of effort, a lot of self-discipline. It feels like a lot of willpower, like I have to hold really tightly to it or I won't be able to get it done. That often comes from lack. Either I'm holding so tightly to it or like I'm not doing it at all. Both come from this fear under the surface that like I don't have the capacity or that I can't handle it or that I won't get it done. Lack is never going to lead to long-term sustainable change. It's not going to be deep change. It's not going to be deeply rooted change. It's always going to feel surface level. Even if you are getting the results that you want for a while, it's not going to last. And even if it does last externally on the surface, it's not going to feel good. And what we actually want from a goal is a feeling. At the end of the goal that we want to hit, we want to feel differently about ourselves, about the people that we love, about our lives. And that is not going to happen from lack, ever. So, number one, I would just notice what messages are around me when I pop onto social media, when I'm talking to people, when I'm hearing their conversations, especially around the new year and changes people want to make. Do I feel like it's coming from lack or do I feel like it's coming from abundance, enoughness, wholeness? And can I mute some of those messages that are coming into me about all of the things that I should change about myself and all of the ways that I haven't done it right? And here's a little mini workshop for you if you want to do it differently. 3 steps, simple but hard, like all the things, hard as in it's going to feel hard on the inside. Number 1 is to reflect back over at least the course of a year, but maybe even longer, about where you have come from, how far you have come, what changes, what growth, what expansion has already happened. And I guarantee you there is a lot. I can guarantee you that because you wouldn't be listening or watching or reading this, however you're ingesting this information, if you weren't a growth person. If you were not a growth-centered person, that wouldn't happen. So when you look back into a year or 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years, what are the hugest changes that have happened that at one point probably felt like they were going to be impossible, but now feel easy? When I was little, at some point in my little life journey, I can remember thinking it was really annoying to put on seatbelts. I remember consciously thinking, this is never going to feel easy. I'm always going to have to remember. I'm always going to forget it. And it's always going to feel like a hard thing to do. I don't know how old I was when I remember thinking this. But then at some point when I was a teenager, I remember thinking, oh, it's so easy. I don't even have to think about it at all. That's funny that I used to think it was going to be hard. Some bigger things like that. Yelling for the first decade or more of my married life, having children, I yelled a lot. And it was one of the things, probably the thing that I hated the most that I did. And I tried all the things to change it. And lo and behold, nothing changes from lack, especially that. And it didn't change from lack. And it only started changing as I stopped trying to change that part of myself. It only started to change the more that I learned about feeling, the more that I learned about emotional wellness, the more I tapped into my spirituality, connecting to my own self. That is how I got to the other end. And that felt like a huge thing that there is no way would ever change. That actually changed pretty simply. When I look back on it now, I'm like, wow, if I would have never thought even in 5 years that would be gone. And that's just not something that I deal with at all anymore. Ever, really, which is pretty wild to think about. And so then I think about even the last year, what has happened in the last year. And if you listen to my podcast episode on spirituality and manifestation principles, I was talking about how I flipped through my manifestation journal and found this intentions for 2025 list, and that all of those lists have come through, true, everything on that list. And it's not because of hard work, self-commitment, self-discipline, commitment, determination, willpower. That is not how that happened. It happened through energy, through emotion, through change, through shifting something internally and seeing the results manifest externally. It came from shifting my actions, but I didn't ever have to think about the actions because they shifted naturally when I shifted how I felt on the inside about myself, about my life, about my loved ones. So number one is reflecting back onto how far I've come, because what I hope at the end of that exercise is that you will feel differently. Number two is, if you don't feel differently, go to one of my past podcast episodes that are subconscious practices, any guided meditations, any subconscious practices to move emotions, so that we can shift some of that energy first before we get to number three. But the reason for number one and number two is to see how far we've come and to start training our brain to start looking for the positive, because it doesn't normally happen. Our brain's not going to naturally just give us that. I was coaching a lady the other day, and right before the call, she had come and kind of reviewed some of her journals over the last year because we've been wrapping up our year of working together. And she was just looking at how far she's changed and how much has been different for her that she never thought was possible. And she felt so good. And the whole rest of the session, it was so easy to coach her. She was very coachable. She was very open to new ideas, to seeing new perspectives. She was very open to her intuition. She let the emotion and the energy just move through her. Everything was so different. And I know it was because she came prepared, not on purpose, but she had just been moving through these journals and noticing how much changes had happened. And the change that really happened as she did that was she shifted the energy inside. Manifestation is all about changing our energy, conscious creation, whatever you want to call it. It happens from changing what's inside of us. So number two is changing that emotional state. And so once you notice, like, okay, I'm feeling more expansive. Now I'm not coming from lack as I look forward to 2026. Now, what do I want to create? If anything was possible, what would be fun? What would be even better than I could imagine? What would be so adventurous or so exciting, or what would spark joy? Like Marie Kondo says, when you're going through your stuff to do minimalism, she's like, touch each item and ask yourself, does this spark joy? So I would ask you, touch each of your goals. Does this spark joy? If it doesn't, just release that, move on to something else. And I think of it as expansive. If I want to live an expansive life, a full life, let me go into it thinking like, what else is possible? If I did this in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, what more could possibly be possible this year? And let your mind kind of open, explode your brain with different and new ideas, and be open to possibilities, because the energy of possibility is going to be what calls in more, being open to receiving a bigger, fuller life. And a quick little addendum is that when we ask for a fuller life, it's also going to bring in more fullness of discomfort as well. There might be more of the shadow side as you open up to more of the light side. Expansion comes with contraction. So be willing to open up that as well. I'm excited for your 2026 journey. I'd love to hear all about it. Last little bonus question I'll have you answer is this. What mentors, guides, supports, teachers, books will most guide me this year? When I look back onto my years, the years that I had the biggest expansions, I had some support, I had some community, I had some help helping me. And I think that we sometimes hold on to this. It's better if we do it alone. Like, it's more rewarding. I get a bigger gold star if I do it alone. And I think the opposite is true. I think it's stronger to not do it alone. I think that we need to do it less alone, more in community. Instead of individual healing, I think that we can do it in community. So I would offer you to ask that question as well. When I asked myself this question in a guided hypnosis that I was doing last January, the answers came very clear to me. It was like these two mentors. So I just looked out for what books they had, what programs, what retreats they were offering. I muted everybody else, and I was like, this is what I'm going to learn this year. So I would offer to ask yourself that question too. What is for me this year? And listen and believe that from the answers that come to your heart, that will be for you. That those little breadcrumbs, like this is the next thing, this is the next thing, they're breadcrumbs from the universe. Listen to them, trust them, be guided by them. And I hope that you have a new year, 2026, full of more stillness, more silence, more self-reflection, more connection deeply to yourself, and therefore deeply to others, to those that you love. That is what a full life, that is what a bigger, more expansive life feels like for me. So Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2026. If you are enjoying these episodes, I would love for you to follow, subscribe, like, share, do all those things so that it can get more out into the world, more out into the algorithm, and join me in this shame-free movement.